All right, you're welcome. This is Onside with me, Joshua Holotu, and this is my review of the Black Stars game that they played against Croatia yesterday in Philadelphia. Of course, the game didn't end the way we expected it to end. The Black Stars, they lost that game by 2-1. But we need to talk about a couple of things because this is the Croatian team that so many people thought the Black Stars were going to walk over. And I kept on saying it on multiple platforms that this game was not going to be easy. We needed to approach it with a different mentality, a different mindset. But we needed to be very careful about how the Croats played because they have learned from their games against England when they lost 4-2. They perfected it against Panama. And now they came in to beat Ghana. Got that result, very, very important result. And they ended up second in the group. I know on the flip side, in terms of how we placed in the group, we ended up third with only 4 points, which means that we are going to stay in the USA and play against Colombia in Kansas City. So if we want to look at it from that angle, the defeat was a good one, okay, depending on where we place. If we had ended up second, it means that we were going to play in Toronto against Portugal. Thomas Partey wouldn't have been available. So you can describe it as a blessing in disguise, but I would want to talk about the performance on the day so that becomes the subject of discussion rather than just losing and ending up playing in the US, because it feels like a trade-off. But when I look at the performance of the Black Stars in yesterday's game, I realized that a couple of things really need to be addressed moving forward, especially when we're going to play a very difficult Colombian side in the round of 32. But I must mention the success rate of the African teams at the tournament. 9 out of 10 African teams have progressed to the round of 32, which is really commendable. Only Tunisia fell along the way. They are going home without any point in the tournament, having played 3 games and 3 defeats. They sacked their coach, Sabri Lamouchi. Brought in Hervé Renard, but Hervé Renard couldn't turn their fortunes around. It looks like it was too late for him to do anything in the tournament. So Tunisia, they are the casualties, the only casualties from the African continent, having, lost all their 3 good games. Let's get back to the Ghana game, because yesterday a couple of things happened in the game that I realized. Now, in commentary position, always, I'm going to say this. When you're making commentary on Ghana Black Stars games, the emotions are really high. The performance of the players on the day is something that can affect you when you're in commentary position, because the player misses a certain chance or gives the ball away in a certain way, and it even affects the way you are running the commentary. So sometimes I try as much as possible to finish with the commentary, come back and sit down and watch the game all over again, so that I can make my notes and try and do some analysis and also get my talking points. Now, individual performance, in some way or form, because we try to open up and not sit in a typical low block like the way we did against England, we had a couple of things exposed about the team, which to me feels like a good way of preparing for the game against Colombia, because now we've realized that we have a couple of patches to fix. We've made a couple of mistakes that we need to correct. And again, we have a longer time to prepare for that game against Colombia, which is going to be played on the dawn of 4th July here in Ghana. So that game is going to kick off at 1:30 a.m. GMT. So that's next Friday. So Ghana has at least about 6 days to prepare for that game. And according to Carlos Queiroz, what he said in the post-match conference, I get the sense that he's also taking cognizance of the fact that there are a couple of things he did in the game against Croatia. He wanted to experiment and see how the Black Stars would play when they open up a bit and try to go expansive rather than defensive. So I don't want to be overly critical of the performance yesterday. Of course, there are some individual performances that really need to be questioned. For example, Elisha Owusu, in certain instances of the game, he looked really lost, right? Gave the ball away in the first half, especially in critical moments where we're trying to build up or he could have managed to take the ball off the Croats and try and, recycle possession and play it into the half of the opponent and try to progress the ball forward. He gave the ball away, lost the ball. He looked very scrappy all across the pitch. He didn't really know what he was doing. We can also talk about Kamaldeen Sulemana. For the umpteenth time, it's a disappointing performance from the very talented winger, the very talented forward that we all know. I've been watching Kamaldeen Sulemana play for the Black Stars. It's almost 5 years. But he doesn't seem to have the cutting edge in the final third. He seems to always get it wrong. And I'm wondering what he needs to do again to be able to get it right. And I'm so disappointed because Kamaldeen at this point, you wouldn't expect him to make those kind of mistakes that he was doing. Yesterday, he got a very good chance of playing either Semenyo or Jordan Ayew on goal in what I think was a 3v2 situation. He literally gave the ball away to the opponent and they recycled possession, and I was in commentary position. I didn't know what to say. Kamaldeen Sulemana didn't really get the best of games yesterday in the game against Croatia. And this is because once we start playing expansive football, you'd expect to get more from our outlets in Jordan Ayew, in Kamaldeen Sulemana, in Antoine Semenyo. Yesterday, there were times where all these three got chances to get the ball and try and move in at goal. They didn't really impress. Of course, Semenyo got one shot off target in the first half. And one would have asked, is it better to play Semenyo down the middle or still on the flanks? In my pre-match analysis on a sister station, right, I was saying that it is better to play Semenyo down the middle. We've played him in the flanks in the games against Panama and also in the games against England, in the game against England. I really want to see how Semenyo plays down the middle and we give him some support on the flanks. As to who those players are, perhaps you could talk about Brandon Thomas Asante playing right from the start in the first half on the left. Maybe Naki Williams on the right. Played Antoine Semenyo down the middle. I really feel this is something that we could do to also try and see how Antoine Semenyo is going to play when he plays as a number 9. It's more or less like false 9. But the truth of the matter is that the Black Stars, at least from yesterday's performance, and also I feel and I get the sense that Jerome Opoku is a very integral member of this team. Yesterday, he didn't play because he's apparently taking a knock. But his absence was really felt in the game yesterday. Derek Lucasen, of all people, came in, started his first game for the Black Stars and got that very, very important goal that we scored as an equalizer. So I give him the credit. He wasn't too bad of a player yesterday. He made some decent interceptions in the game and tracked his marker really well in that defensive setup. But Jerome Opoku, I think that we missed him yesterday. When he's in the team, because of his height, because of how calm and composed he is, because of how, sometimes you want to get that sort of, disposition from a center back. He gave us that in the games against Panama and England. So once he wasn't going to start yesterday, you could tell that there was a little, disconnect between Ajiti and Lucasen. If Jerome Opoku was there, perhaps he would have been able to help us. Thomas Partey, he had quite a mixed game, I would say, yesterday. Because when Ghana didn't have the ball, when Ghana had the ball, we're trying to build from the back. Thomas Partey had to sit deep in between the center backs of Derek Lucasen and Jonas Ajeti. So he was dictating a lot of the play from the deep line. And one thing I realized was that there were times when we didn't have the ball, in trying to defend, he was still defending really deep instead of trying to move into the midfield and try to track people like Sucic, who managed to drift out of space, pick the ball from Mateo Kovacic, or I think it was Perisic, and got that shot on goal, which, got the first goal for the Croats. So Thomas Partey, I wouldn't describe his game as a poor game. He could have done more reading the game, or he could have done more in giving instructions to the back line to do more of the defense, while when we didn't have the ball, he would drift into the midfield to try and close those gaps, because he left a lot of space in the middle, which he should have covered so that we didn't have to concede certain chances that we considered in that game. But all in all, the truth of the matter is that the Black Stars have a lot of things to perfect going into the game against Colombia. I watched their game that's between Colombia and Portugal last night that ended in a goalless draw. Now, Colombia are not a walkover team, and that's what we need to understand. People were thinking that Portugal were a more difficult opponent as compared to Colombia, but I beg to differ. The Colombia that I watched last night and that I've seen in the tournament so far, they have a very organized team that can punish you at any time. The intensity they keep up in the team right from the start to the finish of the game is something that we cannot match as a team, the Ghana Black Stars. Because to be very honest, we have just patched up a number of players to play in this tournament. We need to even thank Carlos Queiroz that he has come in and has gotten a very good balance from this team and is helping us to perform the way we are performing in this tournament. Otherwise, by now we would have been kicked out. Because if the game against Croatia is anything to go by, it means that we cannot play expansive football for a really long time. We'd have to play most of our games in a low to mid block and fancy our options in the attack when we get the counter attack. So that is it for how we performed yesterday. It wasn't the best of performances, but we cannot be overly critical of the Black Stars because I can tell that Carlos Queiroz wanted to do a few things and see how we shape up for the game against Colombia. I don't agree when people say that we intentionally lost the game. If the Black Stars intentionally lost the game, and this is down to the technical team, I would say that they would have to look at themselves and begin to rethink how it affects us going into the game against Colombia, because you don't want to disrupt the chemistry, you don't want to disrupt the unity, you don't want to also take away the winning mentality that the boys have. The momentum that we built in the first two games has been curtailed a bit by the defeat we suffered yesterday. And when most of the players after the game were passing through the mix zone, it was clearly written in their faces that they were not so happy about their performance. But if indeed they went into that game playing everything and giving their all, what I would say is that they need to keep their heads up. They need to keep on, believing and hoping that the team that they have built so far on a short notice under Carlos Queiroz, they still have what it takes to make it far in this tournament, perhaps the round of 16. But it means that they would have to prepare really well in the game against Colombia, because that game is going to be a very difficult game to play. Colombia, they have a very good team. And when it gets to that point, we're going to do the pre-match analysis for that game and look at the options of the Black Stars. But hey, this is to all of us analysts and also to the fans. Let's not give up. Let's support the Black Stars, but let's manage our expectations, because we've been saying this for a long time, that the Black Stars, we are really lucky to be at this tournament at this point, because we don't really have a formidable team. The team is still a team that is struggling, but because of Carlos Queiroz, who has come in and has brought in some good fortune, he's changed the way we've set up, and he's given us something to really hold on to. But we need to manage our expectations. I know so many people are disappointed with how we played yesterday, but I think that we can do something in this tournament. I mean, especially when we are going to play the round of 32. And you never know. Good things could happen. This is tournament football. If you do your things right on the day and you manage to take your chances, I think you manage to get a win. And that is what I think the Black Stars need to do at this point. Take your chances. Don't waste them. Do the right things and make sure that you get a good result. And we've played 3 games now. So I want to believe that Carlos Queiroz has noticed all the big changes that he needs to make and all the lapses and all the weaknesses of the side, so that going into the game against Colombia, we don't repeat them. So for example, Kamaldeen Sulemana, I'm really struggling to see how he starts in the game against Colombia, because he has received a lot of confidence boosts from Carlos Queiroz. He started the game against Panama. In the game against England, he came from the bench. In the game against England, he came from the bench. The game against Croatia, he started, but he has not really proven that he's one that should be starting for the Black Stars. So perhaps he's going to sit on the bench. Fatawi Saaku came on yesterday. He had quite a good game. Perhaps if he was brought on a bit, he came on early, so I can't even make that statement. Maybe if he had started the game, would have seen a better performance from the Black Stars, because when he takes the ball, he's able to shrug the ball off the opponent and advance it into the half. And you see, those are the things we need in a team where we don't have so many outlets, we don't have so many star players. You would need Fatau Isako to do a lot of that so he can give us some chances moving forward and we can get a goal in our games. But hey, doesn't mean that we miss the services of Joseph Paintel, Majid Ashimeru, Ibrahim Osman, who so many people thought that if they were in the team, they were quite better players as compared to players like Elisha Owusu, Kwesi Sibo, who didn't really have a good game yesterday. It was quite scrappy. And maybe players like now I don't even have any name off the top of my head, but what I'm trying to say is that are we going to return to the argument in a few weeks' time that there are a couple of players who deserve to be in the Black Stars team that were not there because we didn't really put a lot of thinking into our selection? I don't like to make those arguments. I really think that at this point, the Black Stars need to focus and prepare for that game against Colombia. And if we do our things well, I think we can do well. So let me know your thoughts. Let me just go through the statistics for the game between Ghana and Colombia. So Ghana and Croatia, sorry. So Croatia got 53% of the ball possession. Ghana had 47%. And in fact, the XGs was 0.64 for the Black Stars, 0.42 for the Croats. 8 shots for Croats, 6 shots for Ghana. 4 on targets for the Croatians. For the Croats, sorry, and 1 for the Black Stars. So honestly, if you ask me, this was a bit balanced in terms of the performance of both teams. But yeah, the Black Stars can do better. We need to fix those challenges, those problems that we have, and approach the Colombia game with a lot of strength and more effort. Let me know what you think about the game, and yeah, let's talk in the comments. Let's also be very optimistic about the chances of the Black Stars moving forward. This has been Onside with me, Joshua Holo 2. This has been a review of the Ghana Black Stars game between themselves and their Croatian counterparts in the final Group L encounter. And until I come your way again, peace out. Vamos Black Stars.